What's up in War Eagle War Report family? We are here talking a little Auburn basketball. Is there cause for concern with the trajectory of the team right now? Let's talk about it.
Midweek Report brought to you by our friends at the Rage Room. If you're in the Opelika area, 1510 2nd Ave, Opelika, Alabama. And if you're in Birmingham, 2616 7th Ave, South Birmingham. They have an axe throwing up there in Birmingham. So you can get your Thor rage out, I guess. Ike up in Birmingham throwing axes at some boards. The Rage Room, I felt a lot of rage after that offensive performance by Auburn last night in Neville. You can get your rage out too. Let them know that the War Report sent you. Join as a member. Hit that join button, $5.99 a month. We appreciate you guys for joining as members. Ike is going on the road here for you guys. Look, he braved Tuscaloosa, Nashville, Vanderbilt. You know, it's nasty work. Somebody's got to do it. Foot up on the gas, all that stuff. Look, we still have Kentucky and Texas A&M. Now, I don't know if you're going out to Texas A&M, but I think you'll make the trip to Rupp Arena for the Wildcats. Yeah, so you can help keep that work going by hitting that join button. We appreciate our members for growing our Green Name gang. You can also give the gift of the War Report by hitting that gifted membership button. Let's see if we can get 20 given away tonight. Also want to thank our friends at Vintage 2298 Restaurant. Visit them at 2298 East University Drive in Auburn, Alabama. And also the Rogue Shop, rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life. The Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Our guy Richard, longtime sponsor of the show. Let him know the War Report sent you. He's dropping a little note in there for all our customers using that code REPORT.
Yes, indeed. Let's get in here and talk a little Auburn basketball. Still the #1 team in the country. If you are in here and you have not shared the video with somebody, please go do that so we can get more people involved in the conversation. Ike Jones, Mike G, talking a little bit about the #1 team in the country coming off of another win narrowly against the Arkansas Razorbacks at home, 67-60. Mike was live at Neville Arena as all of this transpired. I had a chance to react with the fans after the game on the live stream. Mike G, what are your thoughts about the game that you witnessed from the Auburn Tigers versus the Arkansas Razorbacks?
It's getting tight, Ike. Auburn survives again. So weird that it feels like their two toughest games in conference have come at home. I thought that Auburn had control of the game for most of the game. The stats bear that out when you look at the time that they led in this one. But ultimately, you got lucky. And I'm going to say this again for the people in the back. I'll make sure I pronounce his name right. John Neighbors from Locked On Hogs was next to me. Zvonimir Ivisic.
It's pretty
0 for 10 last night.
Yeah.
0 for 10, 0 for 9 from 3. He was shooting 55% from 3 over the last 5 games, 43% on the season coming in. He could not buy a 3. It was actually impressive to watch him miss wide open shots all night. If he hits his averages and you're Auburn, you might lose this one. And again, you survived. Cal said it in the post game. He said, "Man, we just missed open shots." And I gotta agree with them. They had open shots. They just didn't hit them. And Auburn got out of this one alive. But again, if you're Arkansas, that's part of why you're in the bottom of the league, is because you're prone to perform like this from time to time. So good for Auburn. Like I said, you got to get a little lucky, I think, to finish, with as few losses as we think Auburn will finish with. And that means that when you have a bad night, your opponent has a worse night. That that is the luck side of this, because sometimes it feels like, how many times have we watched Auburn football and it feels like we had a stretch of games where it was like everybody's wide receiver was having their career night versus Auburn's defense.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. And it's the opposite, I think, for Auburn basketball. Like everybody's having the worst game of their career when they win versus Auburn so far this year. But there are things I think that you can coach your team on if you're Bruce Pearl after this one. Defensively, I think they did the job holding Arkansas to only 60 points. Remember, this was an Arkansas team that battled back from 18 down to lose to only 3 to Bama.
Yeah.
So they still got talent. I know this is not going well for them, but Calipari spoke to the depth of the league in the postgame. And, when Arkansas is one of your worst teams, your league's doing pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a tough league. That's let me just say this about Coach Calipari. He's a legend. Let me start by saying he's a legend.
Okay. Where we go?
His press conference demeanor was so weird. It was so weird. Like I was not in the room. I was rewatching this on video, and he's like, "Man, we've had some great games in this building, huh?" I was just like, "What? Okay, coach." And then he's like, he spent the next however many minutes basically like downplaying the fact that he's like, we're a pretty good team, and Auburn, that's why they're the number one team. I just didn't feel like his words said, yes, Auburn deserves to be number one, but it felt like he wanted to say, man, we let them off. It felt like he was going to give us that Dennis Green. They were who we thought they were. They were. We let them off the hook. It felt like he wanted to say that during that press conference, as opposed to giving props to Auburn. And he was fighting back that, and his demeanor was almost like cynical, and I don't know, man. It was weird. It was very weird.
I think if that was the case, it was warranted last night. I think that they did let Auburn off the hook. Like I said, just wide open shots that they were missing. And
Auburn was missing open shots too, though.
Yeah,
like that's what everybody's dismissing the fact that Auburn shot terribly as well.
He talked about a rebound that they gave up, essentially, that they would normally get in the post game.
The tap in that Janai Broom got late.
Yeah,
he was like basically with one arm, he goes up there and taps it in.
They also had a field goal where I believe Arkansas tapped it into their own basket.
They did. It was great.
Yeah, and they scored. I turned to Daryl Dapper, and I was like, "Who gets credit for that basket?" But
I don't
I
know the answer to who got credit for that one, but
the basket, it was a weird one. I just think at the end of the day, this was a tough win for Auburn, and if you're Arkansas, Auburn's not the only team that you've given this kind of trouble this year. Like I said, I mean, they put up more points on Bama. They put up more points. Now, Bama's not a very good defensive team. I've tried to tell people that repeatedly. But 81-85, they battled Bama to after being down 18 at one point. They've got talent. I think that he's trying to sell that his program is not that far off from being a contender. I think that's what his message was. I don't think he was trying to take anything away from Auburn, more so than talk to his base and say, hang with us, we're close.
Yeah, I definitely understood that he was trying to inject some confidence into his team. And he said as much. He's like, look, I'm trying to convince these guys and help them understand that we're right there. We just need to make these winning plays in these moments. And that's why Auburn's the number one team, is because they made those plays and we didn't. Like, that's what separates. And listen, he has enough experience in those moments as a coach to know what separates you from being a good team and a great team that's able to win championships is the great teams that are able to win championships. And this is the thing that Auburn fans need to hear about their team as we get further into this conversation about kind of projecting forward what this Auburn team can be, is that you have to have a team that in those moments makes those plays in those types of games. If you don't have a team who can do that, then you don't have a championship basketball team. If the only way you can win, we learned this from last year's team, if the only way you can win is blowing everybody out, and when it gets to these ugly games and you got to find a way to win, and your team can't produce those W's, you're not a very good team.
Yeah,
you're good, but you're not very good, and you're definitely not championship. Auburn's
Yeah,
won those games this year, and so that is what puts them in this championship kind of conversation.
I agree. Look, when you look at the play-by-play down the stretch, right? There were opportunities for Arkansas. Missed 3-point jumper with 22 seconds left for Ivisic. They missed driving layup. Like, man, just miss. And they were a lot of these were good looks that
Yeah,
they had, But if you're Auburn, and we'll get. I talked about this with Jacob Goins. We'll air it tomorrow, but you know, the conversation surrounding Chad Baker-Mazara and his contributions. First and foremost, you lose this game last night without him.
for sure.
Right, you lose this game without Chad Baker-Mazara last night. He is he's an energy guy, man. He scores. He plays defense. He's always right where he needs to be to find the basketball. On that play where Miles Kelly dives over the table and into the crowd to save it, who was right there to catch that save?
Chad.
Right, and he scored.
Yeah.
He took it straight to the rim and scored. So, so many pieces in this team. And I think the story at the end of the day is just depth. They're deep. They're deeper than any team that we've seen in college basketball in quite some time. Right. And so many guys can get you. Chaney Johnson continues to just be a dude going out there and just shooting like over 50% game after game after game. That little baby hook thing he's got going is working. Never stop that, Chaney. Yeah, keep doing that.
His mid-range game is lethal.
Yeah, it's just he missed a lot of those shots last year.
Yeah, he missed them early in the game last night, and he was mad at himself. He was like in the post-game press conference, he was like, they asked about his second half performance, and he was like, man, he was just praying. He was like, because he's like, man, I didn't shoot very well to start the game. He was like, man, Lord, just let me get it together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
man, I don't listen, bro. There's no way anybody can dislike Chaney Johnson. Chaney is just too good a dude. Like, he's probably the most likable dude in the world. Him and Dylan Cardwell, like, probably like in like some sort of competition for the most likable guys ever.
I think that your offensive struggles last night were highlighted by Miles Kelly and Denver Jones. They were a combined 6 of 19 from the field. And if those guys hit their normal averages, then you win this game by like 15. And we're not talking about Auburn's tough offensive night, right? So 40% from the field, but they were sub 40% for a lot of this game. So the averages came up a little bit at the end. It looks a little closer, but I mean, Arkansas paced about 6 to 8% ahead of Auburn in the field goal percentage for most of this one.
Yeah.
While with their best player missing all those shots, like Ivisic's numbers are so anomalous. Like, he won't do that again the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, good luck for anybody who has to play Arkansas for the rest of the year, because he got all of his terrible shooting out for the rest of this season.
Right. Again, if you extrapolate just his misses, their field goal percentage goes up 10%. They shoot 55% without his offer on the night. That's actually crazy. Just taking one player out of there, and you're saying Arkansas shoots 55%, and you told me that was going to be their percentage before the game. I'm saying Auburn might lose.
Yeah.
Probably going to lose. So, I don't know, man. And he didn't have to hit all of them. But if he hit half of them, Auburn probably loses in this one. The guy couldn't buy a shot, man. Again, 0 points, 0 of 10 from the field, 8 rebounds. Only committed 1 personal foul. Again,
which is horse crap, because he definitely fouled more than one time.
Yeah, I will say this. Officiating continues to be an issue for me.
Yeah.
The after the play shove.
Crazy. I've still am baffled as to how they were just like, oh, it's a common foul.
They reviewed it. Like, they reviewed it and said, common foul.
Yeah.
If that was
it's laughable,
Chad Baker-Mazara that did that after a play, straight to Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah. There's no way you can convince me that Chad Baker-Mazara gets away with fouling a guy, and then when Listen, oh, you don't even have to convince me. It literally just happened in the last game versus Alabama.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
That
What
little
are we
baby
talking about?
slap that he had in that game got him an F1. This dude
F1, yeah.
intentionally shoved Miles in the back of the head after the play was over with, and they were like, no big deal,
Common
lay off.
foul. Yeah, they should. Greg Sankey has to get on top of this. He does. It's so wildly inconsistent from game to game. I just don't know how you reviewed that and then came to that determination. And I'm not saying they should have hit him with an F2, but certainly that was a non-basketball play.
Yeah,
After the whistle was over, there was
right.
no reason to do that. And if a fight
And
had
Miles
broken out
and Miles
over it,
did nothing to provoke it. Like all he's
nothing.
doing is trying to get his arms free, and the dude pushed him. I'm just like, come on,
Yeah, you're
dude.
right. It wasn't a case of, oh, well, they didn't see the first guy.
Right.
There was nothing. There was nothing there. That incensed me a little bit. I just didn't like that. I think that those are the types of things where if you don't nip those things in the bud, they could escalate in bigger games where
Yeah,
emotions
I
are
thought
higher.
this
And
game
yeah,
was going to get chippy, right? Because you had that incident, and then you had the Avicic block where he stares a guy down after he stares Chaney Johnson down after. Now they did tee him up for it, but I was just like, okay, Arkansas is trying to make this into like a little bit of a chippy. They're looking for ways to fire their team up, and I think that they were just kind of trying some stuff to be like,
yeah.
oh, we're gonna be bad guys today, yeah. And I'm just
Mm.
like, hey man, come on, guys.
Auburn allowed 40 points in the paint in this one. I was a little concerned about defense down low,
Yeah,
but Arkansas was scoring tough buckets.
they were.
They had a lot of tough buckets at the rim where I turned to John and I was just like, "That's a tough bucket. Like,
Yo,
what do you
the
do with
the
that?"
the the one dunk that Thero had, where Denver Jones literally blocks the ball into the rim, and then it somehow still spills over into the basket. I was like, "Come on, bro, are we being serious right
Hmm.
now?" That was a great defensive play by Denver Jones. If you go back and watch the replay, Denver's face is like, for real. They had
Yeah.
another one where I want to say it was I can't I think I want to say the kid's name is Nelson, where he goes up against the block and he double clutches and brings it down, and Janai's coming to swipe it from to block it, and he gets a piece of it, and the ball still finds its way up, banks off the backboard and goes in, and Janai's facial expression is like, you got lucky, because that's supposed to be on my block right there. Like
Hmm.
they made some shots where it was like, for all the ones that they missed, they got a couple of them where it's like, are we being
It
for real right now?
Yeah, yeah. It was again. I got to give them credit for continuing to go to the rim. When you look at everybody else's stat line outside of Ibisic, they had a pretty good night shooting the basketball, right? So yeah, for example, Billy Richmond 4 for 5 from the field. DJ Wagner was 5 of 12 from the field. Carter Knox was 5 of 6 from the field. Adu Thiero, I believe that's how you say his name, 6 of 13 from the field, and Janelle Davis, 5 of 9 from the field. Like almost everybody else shot close to or over 50% from the
50%.
field.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand Cal's frustration. This night was marked by a really bad performance by one of his best, if not his best 3-point shooter.
No, easily his
Completely
best 3-point
anomalous
shooter.
result. Yeah, yeah. He won't do that again the rest of the year. So if you're Auburn, you did get lucky, right? That he was that bad tonight. But you got out of this one, and now the job is simple, I think, down the stretch. Winning
Well,
you're in. Auburn.
let's before we go too far down the road though, let's because what we're going to talk about for Auburn moving forward, I want to highlight some things that happened in this game that were indicative of that. And that was a the thing that coach talked about in the post-game presser. It was the shot selection and the lazy passes that you can live with missing shots, but like the possessions where there was a point in the first half where there were 5 possessions in a row where it was a pass that was tipped and Arkansas goes down and gets a bucket. There, one of them, Denver Jones goes to throw a pass to Janai. Janai's looking back at the sideline when it happens, and it just goes out of bounds. They had like 3 or 4 turnovers in a row, and then a bad shot in the middle, amidst of that. That is the thing that was most concerning for me about from Auburn last night. Is you're just not taking care of the basketball in the way that you're choosing shots and the careless nature in which you're going about executing your offense and giving easy buckets to Arkansas in that game.
Yeah, yeah. Shot selection. I did hear him say that in the post game while we're sitting in there. He just did not like their shot selection. I think I tweeted out that quote. But look, I've asked him about this. Overall, shot selection has been great this year so far. They've done a really good job choosing their shots in spots. And I would attribute that to a momentary lapse of just focus. Like,
Yeah.
it's really what it boils down to. If you're Auburn and you're focused, these things aren't happening, and you're beating teams by a lot. But I think it speaks to something when you can be bad and still win.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Listen,
that's
that's
going to happen
100% true.
sometimes. Yeah.
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 That's
Yeah. You're bad and you
100% a
still win.
thing for teams to not play their best and still get a win. And Auburn's had a couple of those this season. You got to say, all right, that's a pretty good team that can play poorly.
Well, they turned around one trend. They didn't get out rebounded in this one.
Yeah, no.
Last couple games they've been out rebounded. To last night they won the rebound battle, I believe, 42-29. And particularly on the offensive boards, 13 offensive rebounds for Auburn versus only 4 for Arkansas last night. And those 13 rebounds led to 16 second chance points, significant in the game that you won only by 7. So
Yeah.
Offensive rebounding likely saved the game for them last night as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what it shows. It's not, in my opinion, effort. It was focus, right? It wasn't that they were playing lazily. It's that they were not focused at points in the game because the effort was clearly there. You already mentioned Miles Kelly diving over the scorer's table to go get a loose ball. You're watching again, the shot goes in, but Denver Jones going to try to block a dunk that was an easy dunk attempt that he tries to erase in that one. Freaking Janai Broom with the tip in that Calipari talked about, the rebound late. The effort is there, right? But sometimes the focus is not there. The word that everybody was throwing around a lot was emotional hangover. And how much do you want to attribute this being an emotional hangover from a very tough game in Tuscaloosa a few days prior?
Yeah, I mean, was this like? I don't know if you can call this a trap game with Georgia being the next game coming up, but I did think that there might have been a little bit of a hangover over what was a really emotional win in the biggest game in college basketball so far this season.
Yes.
1 versus 2, first 1 versus 2 matchup in conference history between 2 SEC teams. This was everything that you hoped. I think Auburn, Tennessee would have been earlier in the season. It wasn't because Tennessee didn't hold up their end of the bargain. But if you're Auburn, you got a Bama-sized monkey off your back last Saturday.
Yeah.
Right. And you put yourself firmly in the driver's seat for that regular season SEC championship. I talked about this with my friend Doug Amos over on ESPN 106.7 this morning and just said, look, man, that's Doug, this outright regular season championship means something to these guys. I know the banner will say champions if they're co-champions, but in what everyone agrees, let me not say everyone. In what most experts agree is the hardest single season in any league in the history of college basketball. You want to win this one outright.
Yeah.
You want to be able to say, we won the league at its absolute pinnacle. The SEC is the pinnacle of college basketball right now.
Right.
Your league is a lock to get 10 teams into the NCAA tournament, Ike.
Yeah. And if it goes right down the stretch, that could be 12, maybe 13.
Yeah. I think 13 is going to be a little tough because
13 is going to take some other teams falling apart in other leagues. But if you get the right combination of wins, you could
auto qualifiers from other conferences, right? Like if the wrong auto qualifiers make it, or somebody outside the bubble wins their conference tournament, that's what's going to hurt that 13th team or that 12th team. So we'll see how it fleshes out. But to be in the conversation, I don't know. I do want to go off topic just a tiny bit. There's something I want to ask you about, and I waited to ask you on camera because I've been arguing with my Missouri friends all day.
Okay.
They seem to think they have a path to a 1 seed.
Missouri?
Chat, chime in. I don't see it. Now, our guy
Missouri's going to struggle to get to the 2 line. I ain't going to hold you. Like it's going to take them going. They probably can't lose another game for the rest of the season, which is that's a difficult task by itself right there.
But it doesn't matter what happens in the conference tournament.
I mean, right? they gotta win it.
But even then, remember, like selection, the conference tournament finishes up on a Sunday, and they're seeding
that Sunday evening.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
like so, an hour later.
This is how Auburn ended up with a 4 seed last year.
Right.
After winning the SEC tournament and going on a crazy run.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, conference tournament results don't really factor in.
I can't see them getting to the 1 line, bro. That's tough.
I know they're hot down the stretch here, but our guy over at Locked On Mizzou said he thought that it would take clean out the regular season and then go on a run to the SEC tournament title. And I was like, if your path includes anything in the SEC tournament, you don't have a path.
I can't see it, bro. The problem for Missouri is I don't think that their non-conference schedule was tough enough. I don't think that they had enough quad 1 games in their non-con that simply running the table, and they've already lost 4 games in conference.
Right.
I can't see it. Missouri, I'm sorry. And that's not even me. I think Missouri's a really good team. Arguably, Missouri is a top 4 or 5 team in this conference. And what you just mentioned is the best conference in America right now. And they're probably 4th or 5th best in this conference right now, probably playing like top 3 in the conference. If you just taking maybe the last couple of weeks of play, I can't see it. I'm sorry. I can't see not a 1 seed. They're going to struggle to get to a 2 seed. Like they could do all of those things that he just talked about, which is win out the rest and then go on a crazy run in the SEC tournament and still not make a 2 seed. Hear me when I say that.
All right. Yeah. I just wanted to be on. I wanted to make sure we got that on tape.
I think they're like a 4 seed right now. So I can't see it, bro. Like, listen. Okay. So here's what you're having to say if you're a Missouri fan. You think that your resume with 4 losses now puts you in one of the 4 best teams in the net in the country if you're going to make the 1 line. 4 best teams, right? And so the teams that are right now on that 1 line are teams like Auburn, Florida, Duke, and Bama, right? Bama might drop off of that. In order for you to jump up in there, you have to right now, to be in striking distance of a 1 line, you got to be in the top 8, and Missouri's not there.
Yeah.
I just don't see teams that are in the top 8. I think Missouri's probably, I don't know. What do you have the net pulled up anywhere?
I've got, well, let's start with the bracketology, right? Like, so ESPN's bracketology has Mizzou sitting on a 5 seed right now currently.
Okay. Bracketology says that Missouri is one of the top 20 teams. And I said to be in striking distance of a 1 line, you need to be in the top 8. Nah, fam, you too far. Like even if they were the highest ranked 5 seed, they're like 16, 17 in the cut. No, bro. Like
they're 13 in the net right now.
You need to get to the top 4. You need like 6 or 7 of the teams in front of you to falter down the stretch. That's not happening, bro.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Yeah, and I think that's
not with the schedule that Duke has left,
mm-hmm.
not with the schedule that Houston's got left, not with the schedule that really Auburn has left.
Yeah, you're not going to jump any of those teams. Bro. Yeah, you're not going to jump any of those teams.
Florida only has like 2 tough games. Nah, bro, it's not happening. That's not happening. You're not getting to a 1 line, dog. You can hang that up.
Okay, all right. Missouri fans, you heard it here. Ike Jones says, no dice, no number 1 seed for you. Know your place.
Missouri, you're going to struggle to get to a 2. Hear me when I say, like, prepare your brains to be sitting there on Selection Sunday and the words of Ike Jones resounding in your ear when I say you're going to struggle to get to a 2 line, even if you win out. That's
Yeah,
not how this works.
not happening.
It's not
No.
who's been playing the bit. This isn't how they like. They're see this is football fan talk. This is football fan talk where you're like, well, we're the best team playing right now. They're gonna take your entire resume over the entirety of this season and weigh it against everybody else's entire resume. And when they do that, they're not going to say to themselves, I think Missouri is one of the 8 best teams, because that's what you got to do to get to a 2 line. Is you got to be one of the top 8. You got to be 5, 6, 7, and 8 in the final rankings.
Yeah.
They're not going to put you there. 3 seed is what you need to have. If you're at the 5 right now, you need to say to yourselves, 3 seed is probably the best that we could do, even if we blitz the rest of the field from now until the end of this season.
That loss to Texas at Texas hurts. I mean, and then they opened with a loss to Memphis.
Bro.
Yeah. I mean,
that's my point. Memphis is faltering right now. You can't. Nah, I just don't. Listen. Y'all are putting too much stock in Kansas, who everybody is beating right now. Like, no, your resume don't say it, bro. It doesn't.
Yeah.
You're playing, and again, hear me clearly. I think Missouri is one of the best teams in the conference right now. They are playing lights out. They defend well. They're deep. They can shoot the 3 well. They do all the things. They can play inside out with Mitchell. Like, Caleb Grill's one of the best shooters in the like, they got all the pieces. Robinson's one of the best defensive guards in the conference. They got a bunch of stuff that makes you very happy with where you are. Don't be crazy. Start talking about 1 seed stuff, though. Like, you're setting yourself up for disappointment and to be like, we got screwed. No, you didn't. You didn't get screwed. Let's be realistic. That's not a real thing.
Yeah. There's years of precedent, though, that says what happens in the conference tournament is just not factor in because of when Selection Sunday is. And so what they've tried to do is they've tried to create contingencies, right? Like up to 10 contingencies to say, if this team goes on a run through Saturday, but the thing is that a lot of the selections are made before the games are done on Saturday. Right. And so on Sunday, before you played your championship game, they're all but finished.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe on Saturday before you even had a result there. Yeah. So, if you think that with Missouri's remaining schedule, South Carolina, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, and then Kentucky, only 1 ranked matchup to close the season.
It's not happening.
I don't see it.
I say it's just not. Like, I need you to. I need y'all to watch more basketball in your life. If you're coming up with that take, bro, like that's not a realistic scenario for Missouri going through a 1 seed is. You might have had an argument with me if you wanted to say 2, and I'd say 2 seed was a stretch. A 1 seed is darn near an impossibility, barring every one of the 14 teams in front of you absolutely falling apart for the remainder of the season. And hear me when I say this. I feel like Auburn, Duke, Florida could probably lose 2 or 3 more games and still be 1 seeds. That's how much work, that's how much of an uphill climb Missouri has to get to a 1 seed. That the teams at the top could lose 2 or 3 more games and still not lose their 1 seed overall. So I need Missouri fans to like settle down a little bit, be happy with what you got going on, and you got a really great basketball team. I'm not trying to belittle your team. I'm saying your aspirations of 1 seed in the NCAA tournament are unfounded, and improbable is being kind. Improbable is kind.
Yeah, right. Yeah, one of the top 4 teams in the country. Like, I don't see it. I don't see it happening. But I get it. It's basketball season. Everybody needs content. Shout out to my guy at Locked On Mizzou, but he was shopping at the Lululemon when he made that take. I did not get it. Missouri fans came after me. I just said, look, guys, I will tell you, after I watched what happened to Auburn last year, and I firmly, and I'm not even saying what they're deserving of. I'm just saying,
again, this is not about the talent of this team or how good I think they are.
It's about what is possible between now and the end of the regular season. I just don't see it. Bracketology again has them at a 5 seed right now. That's not the end all.
They might get up to a 4 seed after this Bama win once they do the redoing the brackets. But if you think you're jumping 3 more lines between now and the end of the season,
don't see it. Don't see it at all.
yeah.
I don't see it. Now, their next, just for record, their finishing schedule is at Arkansas, home against South Carolina, at Vanderbilt, at Oklahoma, and then home versus Kentucky.
None of those teams help your resume. Kentucky's the only one that's a top 25 team, and they don't even help your resume all that much.
That
because
much,
it's
yeah.
No, bro. Like y'all don't understand how seeding math works. If
you lose any of them,
you're done. You can't lose any of them, and none of those help you. Like if you had Florida still left on your schedule, if you still had Auburn left on your schedule, we could have a conversation about what could potentially help your resume. Beating Oklahoma and Arkansas and Vanderbilt, who's like, none of those teams that I just mentioned are locks for the tournament right now. You're beating teams that are outside of the no, bro. Stop. Stop. It's not real. That's not, I don't even want to talk about this no more. That's not real. Stop.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, I just wanted to get you on record. Because that was my exact feeling, but I hate standing alone on some points, and I knew you'd be there for me, Ike.
Yeah.
So,
man, yeah.
Missouri fans, hang it up. You're the secondary Tigers in the conference. You guys are weird. You're just weird. Missouri fans are weird.
Settle down, Missouri. All right, we're going to get to a break. We're going to get back and talk about the challenges that face this Auburn basketball team to finish off this season. Should Auburn fans be concerned with where Auburn is right now? You are watching the Midweek Report.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. The Opelika Rage Room in Opelika, Alabama. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Call or text 334-777-6688 to set up a session today, or check them out online at opelika-rageroom.com. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
You guys know the deal. Join as a member, $5.99 a month. We'll get you there. Ike still has traveling to do for you. Hell, I got traveling to do. We're headed to Nashville for the SEC tournament, as we do every single year. Hopefully, we're celebrating another Auburn SEC tournament championship, but we'll see. Either way, you can help support the work that we're doing on the road by joining as a member, $5.99 a month. Also, this episode is brought to you by our friends at Underdog Sports. New customer deposit and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. All you got to do is pick higher or lower on 2 different player props, and bam, you have a chance to win a boatload of cash with our friends at Underdog. Again, new customer deposits and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Underdog Sports.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, D, let's get over here into the comment section. As always, with our comments, we're going to start with the supers. Super chat here from Anthony Long, who said, I said it last weekend, I'll say it again. Jason Williams shouldn't call Auburn games. He sounded like he didn't want to be there. He clearly hates the fact that Auburn
was he calling the Arkansas game last night?
Yes, he was there.
Wow, that's like his 5th Auburn game this year, it feels like.
Yeah, he's I mean, the more Auburn is getting the primetime ESPN stuff, he's one of their primetime ESPN guys. Him and Jay Billis are the ones.
He just
gonna get one of the 2
stuff, man. Like, what earlier this season he was like, Janai Brown's playing prison ball out there. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about him equating, young athletes play to prison. Like, it was a weird comment. It was just, I don't know. And then when challenged on, one guy said Auburn is the most complete team in the country. Say that again. Like, it just feels very unprofessional. I don't know, man. He says weird stuff. I'm with you. Get him off Auburn games. Just give us anybody else.
He definitely. I don't know. He. It's almost like he's just waiting for Auburn to falter so he can say, "I told you so."
Right. And on the day that they did, Duke lost.
Right.
So there was not much he could say. Yeah, there was not much he could say.
All right. Chris Culverhouse says, is this for real? I mean, we just beat the number 2 team in the nation in their own building. Then we had to defend our home court. They also got lucky with how we went 4 from 24 from 3.
Yeah, here's the slight difference between Arkansas and Auburn in that one. Again, those were choices, but I think the shot selection, like Bruce Pearl said, Auburn chose poor shots, and that attributed to 4 for 24 from 3, whereas Arkansas was just missing like wide open threes.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn missed wide open threes as well, but yeah, I think to your point, the guy who is missing wide open threes is a guy who's been 55% over his last 5 games, and it's like, yo, you just don't expect that. Like, he's gonna make one of those, and he made absolutely none of them. Jonathan Boyson says Auburn hasn't looked the same since conference play started, except for the Bama game. We had a different attitude and play in the non-conference. Need to get back to that. I've seen a lot of people say this, and I think people's memories are short. Let's remind people of Auburn's conference situation of what's happened, because Auburn beat the brakes off of Missouri in the first conference game, 84 to 68.
Yep.
Now they had close games against Texas and South Carolina. Without Janai Broome, beat the brakes off of Mississippi State, 88 to 66. Close game against Georgia, close game against Tennessee, no slouch there. 13-point win against LSU. 10-point win on the road versus Ole Miss. Beat the brakes off of Oklahoma. Lost to Florida. Though it looked sloppy at times, double-digit victory over Vanderbilt. Win on the road versus Bama. Like, Auburn was playing.
You scored 94 points too in that game.
Yeah. Right. So Auburn playing inferior opponents out of conference and beating them by 30, as opposed to them having double-digit victories versus SEC teams and SEC. Like, there's not very much equivalence there, because when Auburn played tough teams like Houston and Iowa State, those were close games.
But you were down 18 versus Iowa State, and you had to come back.
Right.
So, there's still precedent in the non-conference for some of what we're seeing, but I think that you just have to give the opponents credit. We keep talking about the strength of the league. Bruce Pearl has advocated openly and repeatedly for the strength of the conference and how tough it is. And so it's just going to be tough games. The guys you're playing, the guys on the other side of the court, have something to do why you're not blowing everybody out. I think just maybe we just focus on the fact that they're finding a way to win multiple types of games. I think that's the most important thing here. Auburn can win any kind of game you want to play. You want to run up and down the court, they'll run with you. You want to play a slow half-court game, they can win that too. Take out our best player, we'll find a way to win a couple without him.
Right.
Not shooting well for 3, we'll find a way to win. Right. Not getting the calls, okay. They'll win that one. They've done it. Name the top. What kind of game hasn't Auburn won so far this year?
Yeah, other than, having to outscore Florida and, on the road versus Duke, the team
still scored 81.
Yeah, the team doesn't have a blemish. And so, while I agree that it's difficult to watch your team not dominate every game, it wasn't going to be like that when you got to conference play, when the level of athleticism every single week was going to be more on par with what you have on your team. When you're athletic, and I think people got spoiled by games like Ohio State and Purdue, where, okay, those are Power 4 or, higher level competition. And you're like, all right, we're playing against one of the power conference guys and we're beating the brakes off of them. When we get to the SEC is just different, bro. It's not the same league. And so comparing those games to what you're seeing on a night in, not even weekend, because you play 2 games a week, a night in and night out basis in the SEC is not really a fair basis for comparison. So again, it's not as an enjoyable experience as a fan, but I don't think Auburn's playing markedly worse. Now, there are some things that I think Auburn should be concerned about. So having said all of those things, but I think some of that's the natural attrition of the league and the fatigue that's happened. And some of that is, again, just your competition is consistently good. So you're going to have more cracks in the armor show. Let's see. Lawrence Robinson says Mizzou should relish in the fact that they're playing well right now. Just keep it up for your tournament run. Agreed with that. Stop worrying about one seeds and just keep playing basketball. Tim the Tool Man Taylor says 0 SEC wins last year to a 1 seed this year. That will be a historic turnaround if it wasn't so unhinged of an idea. Yes, it would.
Agreed. They are unhinged though.
Floppy Toppy says this is a new Mizzou team now, as opposed to, I think, the team that Auburn played at the beginning of the SEC season.
Floppy Toppy.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Missouri is playing really well right now. I don't want to take anything away from them, but it's not who's playing the best right now. That's not how tournament seeding works. They're not going to say, all right, so who's had the best season over the last month, and let's put those as the top. That's not how that's going to work.
Yeah.
They're going to look at your entire resume. It's never worked like that. And so the only argument that you would have as a Missouri fan is we're playing the best now. And I think that you'd even have a tough argument today. Let's not even look forward to the rest of the season. You have a tough argument today saying you're one of the best 4 teams in the country.
Yeah.
That's a tough argument. Again, Auburn, Florida, Duke absolutely have claim to the top 3. So you're fighting for number 4 at best to get to a 1 line. And you're going to have a tough time convincing people that you're one of those teams. So and again, I think they're high off of we just beat Bama fumes. So maybe that's what's driving that. Anyway, let's get over into the rest of this conversation, talking about Auburn for the rest of the season. You started to go down the road of talking about who Auburn has left on the season. I'll let you continue that as we get into what are the dangers for this Auburn team going forward.
Remaining schedule: Georgia visits Neville on Saturday at 4 p.m. on ESPN, and then Ole Miss visits. So this is one of your double ups, your home and homes. Ole Miss visits at 7 p.m. on the 26th. Then you're at Kentucky, at Texas A&M. Right, you've got 2 top. And then Bama comes to Neville. Right, so you've got 4 top 25 matchups to close the season if you're Auburn. And I'm not as worried about Texas A&M as some people. Buzz Williams has played us tough. But I don't know, man. I don't see Ole Miss. They're frauds. They're frauds. We'll just call it over there.
Is there a sport? Let's have forget what we were going to talk about for Auburn. Is there a sport in which Ole Miss is not fraudulent? Let's go.
Baseball.
Yeah, that's it.
I'll give them baseball. So, other than that, look, no, I don't know if I give them baseball. Women's basketball.
They are good in women's basketball.
Women's basketball,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But look, if you're Auburn, this is a tall task down the stretch. This is why when we're having the conversation about Missouri and they're talking about, oh, we could play ourselves so 1 seed. What? You have one of the weakest closing stretches in the conference. Versus who? Right? Like Auburn and Bama closes like 6 straight ranked opponents. Auburn closes with 4. There are just people, quite frankly, with harder schedules down the stretch than Missouri, and Auburn is definitely one of them. So if you're Missouri, the problem with the path to the number 1 is that it requires other people to falter for you to get there.
Correct.
And if you're Auburn, you don't need any help. You just have to win.
Yep.
I think if you're Florida, you don't need any help. You just have to win.
Right.
If they close their regular season winning all their remaining games, Ike, they're number 1. I think they're a number 1 seed.
Who, Florida?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. 100% Florida's a 1 seed if they win out. 100%.
Yeah, they've got LSU, Georgia, A&M, Bama, and Ole Miss to close the season. So they've got 3 straight ranked matchups to close the season. 2 top 10 teams in there. You win all those, you're a number 1 seed. If you're Missouri, you're running out of opportunities to claim a number 1 seed. So, they're saying, oh, if we win out and we go on a run. No. It's not going to happen. It's not happening, right? Florida is in control of their destiny. And then you got to look outside the SEC. We're talking about 2 number 1 seeds possibly from the conference. And then you're telling me that Missouri, some guy going to hop the Dukes and the Houstons and the Iowa States and all these
No,
teams.
it's not happening. Like I said, it's just not. It's not a
Yeah,
real
it's
thing.
just there's not enough number 1 seeds. Now we're expanding the 8 number 1 seeds. So looking at Auburn's schedule, I don't think obviously there's not a game that they can't win.
For sure. That's a full stop. There's no game that Auburn cannot
win. Yeah, down the stretch. But you really want that sweep of Bama.
Yes. Love to see
You want that sweep of Bama. You want to own them twice. You beat them. You did the hard part already. You won in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah.
Now they have to come to Neville. My concern is, I think the Rims will be a little bit more unkind to them in Neville, but like, I do think that if I'm going to conspiracy land about the conference and what they want, you're at a point right now where the conference is probably going to protect their number 1 overall seed.
I hope so. At some point in time, can we start to get some sort of like compensation for like, come on,
protect
bro.
their number 1 overall seed, man. Like, Greg Sankey talks about it all the time in football, and how, so many decisions are made on how many teams can we get into the playoff. You've asked your member institutions to invest in basketball, and they've done it. Now it's got to be how many teams can we get? It was how many teams can we get into the tournament? Now it's how many number 1 seeds, how many top 1 to 2 seeds can we put in the conference tournament? Because Missouri may not make a 1 seed, but there is definitely a path to a 2 seed.
Yeah,
if they win out and other people falter. Right. Yeah. So, I think you'll be highly blessed and verily favored to get into a 2 seed. So I like Auburn. I like Auburn in all these games down the stretch. I'm not saying that there won't be tough games. There certainly will be tough games, but Ole Miss does not scare me. Kentucky this year, I'm not sure. Like, it's in Rupp, but I'm not sure that game worries me. Alabama, the way they score, that game will always worry me. But I feel a little bit more confident about it because it's in Neville.
Yeah. The difference between Kentucky and because Kentucky can absolutely score. The difference between Kentucky and Bama is I do think Bama has a better defense than Kentucky. Kentucky hasn't stopped anybody all season. Like they have been letting teams score at will all year. They're going to have to shoot lights out. And unless they get their guards healthy again for that game, it's going to be a tough game for them.
Let me answer this one, Ike, while we're talking about it, because we're talking about that stretch. He said, what's the magic number to win the regular season championship outright for Auburn? Appreciate this question, Marshall.
It's a good question.
I think you got one more. You can lose one more and win this thing outright.
Yeah, without any help, right? Like if Florida right now is, what, 2 losses in conference or 3? 3, right?
Yeah.
And so, Auburn right now can afford to lose one more if Florida goes undefeated for the regular season and be fine.
Yeah, they've lost to Kentucky, they lost to Missouri, and they lost to Tennessee.
Yeah.
They got 20 apiece by Tennessee.
So, Auburn can afford to lose one more and still be fine. If you lose 2, you lose the tiebreaker. You don't win it outright.
Agreed. I'm not so sure Florida closes this regular season without at least one more loss.
Yeah, if Florida loses again, then Auburn can lose 2.
Yeah, I think all the teams that are contending with Auburn for that regular season championship have a good chance to lose at least one more game. Hell, Bama might lose 2.
Yes.
They might lose 2. So, and you play Bama one more time. So I think it's 1. I think it's 1. And to be safe, you could possibly lose 2 depending on how the cards fall and still win it outright. But I'd hate to see that at this point. You got by Arkansas. That would have been a bad loss. I think that would have been a bad loss for Auburn. But
see, here's the thing. I don't know that there are bad losses for Auburn in terms of tournament resume. But you just don't want to lose that game for like your prospects for winning the SEC regular season title, because now you've made it that much tougher with what you have to win down the line for that. So
the outright regular season SEC champion is 100% going to be the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. If somehow Florida found a way to win this thing outright, I think they take the number 1 seed in the tournament. That's just my opinion. Because of what would have to happen for that to happen. And who, again, they'd have to win 3 straight ranked matchups, 2 top 10 matchups to close the season. And that would strengthen their resume. And then who cares what happens in the SEC tournament? Doesn't matter, right? You are what your regular season says you are as far as the tournament committee is concerned. So it's going to be a tough prospect for Auburn down the stretch. But that is the blessing and the curse of playing in the most competitive league we've seen in college basketball history. No easy outs.
Right.
Right. If you want to do epic shit, you've got to play an epic schedule. And that's what we're watching right now. I think we're watching the most epic schedule I think that we've seen. And the only teams that can really rival it are in the conference. So somebody's got to lose and somebody's got to come out on top. Interestingly enough, the way the schedules fall out, they're not devouring each other like in football. They're not knocking each other off. Everybody's just kind of hanging around, right? Hanging around the top, hanging around that top 10. So, yeah, the magic number.
I think there's a clear separation right now in the SEC amongst the top teams. Like it's pretty tiered where it's like these are the best teams and these are the good. It's like great, good. I don't know about y'all teams right now in the SEC. But what's crazy for me, though, is, and this is why the SEC is so tough, you put a team like South Carolina in the ACC, they wouldn't be winless.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be winless in the ACC. That conference is terrible, which, again, is why Duke is so ridiculous right now, the hype that they have about what they're doing in that conference. They don't play anybody. I just watched North Carolina, a team that got dismantled by 2 SEC teams, beat the brakes off of NC State last night. I mean, the absolute brakes off of NC State. They looked unbeatable in that game, versus NC State, and they looked terrible against Auburn and against Bama. Can we just, the ACC just ain't it, bro. Let's stop. But as far as Auburn is concerned, though, kind of steering back to that, what concerns me down the stretch is not necessarily who Auburn is playing. It is, and you've talked about this, I've heard you talk about it with some of the guests that you've had on our show and then on some of the other places. I'm worried about how Auburn is on the glass right now. Now, the Arkansas game, they dominated on the glass. They were supposed to dominate on the glass. It's not a very good rebounding team. You expect them to go and do that. But against teams that can actually push back a little bit, they haven't done well on the glass. And that worries me because of a couple of things. Auburn's bigs have not found a way to stay out of foul trouble, namely Dylan Cardwell. Now, Janai has not been in foul trouble a lot, but Chaney Johnson has trouble every now and then with foul trouble. So if you're not rebounding well as a team and the guys who do the best rebounding for you can't stay on the floor, that's going to be a problem once you get into tournament time and you find a team that is really good on the glass and pesky and blah, blah, blah. They got to figure out how to be better in that space. They have to.
Yeah, I agree. Rebounding is giving up second chance points is a great way to lose games that you should win.
Auburn right now on the season is ranked 142nd in the nation on the defensive glass. 142nd at preventing other teams from getting offensive boards. 142 in the country.
That's actually crazy. That's a crazy stat. Like you said, Arkansas not a great rebounding team, so you won the rebounding battle there. And as a result, they only got 3 second chance points last night.
Yeah.
Right. Keeping them off the offensive glass, important. It's small things that will get this team beat. Right. The good news is that you're talented enough in every other facet of the game that you can overcome anomalies like that. But you don't want to be in a position where you have to shoot lights out. And quite honestly, you want it all to come together, because I think that's when you get out into the blowout territory, when you're winning the glass and you're shooting like you can from 3, and you're getting offensive rebounds and you're blocking 6 shots a game like Auburn is right now. there's so many opportunities for them, I think, to be really good down the stretch. Now, free throw shooting does concern me as well, too. It's crazy because you have the most epic free throw shooter, the most prolific free throw shooter, I think, in the history of Auburn basketball, and Chad Baker.
Yeah.
Have we seen a better free throw shooter?
I mean, I think by the numbers, maybe I don't think he's the number one, but the stretch he's been on for the last year and a half has been crazy. Yes.
Crazy, right? Yeah. And so, but teams are going to foul Dylan Caldwell at the ends of games.
I thought
I
know because Dylan wasn't even in the game. I'm talking about specifically in this Arkansas game. I thought Arkansas at the end of that game was going to basically try to get the ball out of everybody's hands and force Auburn to inbound the ball to Janai Broome so they could foul him on purpose. And they didn't do that. They just played it straight up, which I thought was not very smart. Like, I would have made Janai Broome make clutch free throws in that game last night and prove to me that he could do it. And somehow they let the ball get into Chad's hands. I was just like, what are y'all doing?
Yeah.
What like you deny everybody else the basketball except for Janai and let that be the easiest inbounds pass in the world. It's like, all right, you can give him the ball. I want him to catch it and then foul him. And they didn't do that for some reason. So whatever. So yeah, the free throw shooting is specifically late game free throw shooting has been a problem for Auburn, and they're going to have to figure out how to make those late game free throws because they can make them early in the game for some reason when it doesn't matter. But when you need them at the end of the game, particularly their bigs, they just haven't been able to do that. Janai Broome, Dylan Caldwell, just not good overall. And his is so strange because he'll go one game where he'll knock down every single one of them, and then he'll go another game where he can't make any of them. So, which is why his percentage is what it is. But the other thing that worries me about this Auburn team is getting in foul trouble. Last night you saw it. Chaney Johnson had 4 fouls. Tahad Pettiford had 4 fouls in the game. Those two guys got to find a way to stay on the floor or keep their availability there with fouls. Auburn, another stat I'm using Bartorvik to look at these stats. They at free throw rate, the rate at which they send opponents to the free throw line, Auburn is 274th worst in the country. They send people to the line way too much. That's just it's a product of the way that they play defense. It's a product of the way that officiating happens with Auburn. But Auburn has to find a better way to defend without fouling because luckily, I think during the tournament, they start to let you play a little bit more. Maybe they're not going to be as quick with the whistles, but I can see a scenario where Auburn's in a game, a dogfight, and then they have somebody who's in foul trouble and they get that last. It happened in the Bama game. You got lucky that Chad Baker-Mazara and Dylan Caldwell both foul out of that game and you still find a way to win it, which again amplifies how good this team freaking is. But you can't just you can't be in these types of scenarios over and over again. And that's going to come back to bite you at some point in time, I feel.
I agree. Look, I mean, I really feel like it's small things for Auburn at this point that you've got to clean up. Your margin for error once you get to the NCAA tournament is going to be extremely small. And so you've got to find ways to make sure that in tight games you're not beating yourself. And that's what Bruce Pearl is going to have to look at, I think, when when you're winning games, sometimes it's easy to overlook the things that need to be done better.
Right.
And when you're losing games, you're looking at everything. But right now, Auburn is winning, and you've got to look at these and say, look, we probably should have got beat tonight. And if we don't clean these things up come tournament time, we will get beat if we have a game like this. You've got to be playing your best basketball at the end of the year. And that's what I think when you look at that 2018, 2019 team that made a run to the Final Four, they were playing their best basketball. What was it? Was it like midseason versus Kentucky after that game? They went on a crazy run that took them all the way through the SEC tournament. They almost lost in the first round in New Mexico State, and then they ended up beating the 3 winningest teams in college basketball history back to back to back.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to just be playing your best basketball in mid-March.
Yeah. And if I'm being honest, and this is where, maybe some Missouri fans will, if you watch this portion, you'll like me. That's what Missouri feels like right now. It feels like they're playing their best basketball right now as the season is closing out. And so they're poised for a big run. It still doesn't mean you deserve a 1 seed, but they're playing their best basketball right now. Let me say this before we get out of here. You know what is not on my top 3 things, and I'm not going to get into my third thing just because we are running out of time here. You know what's not on my list of 3 things that I'm concerned about with this Auburn team going into the tournament? It's not whether or not Chad Baker-Mazara is going to do something crazy and cost the team in a game. Like, I want people to give Chad a break a little bit, man. Like, I get it. Target on his back. He's got to know, blah, whatever, man. Give him a break, man. Like, let other people spin that web. Like, I just want Auburn fans to stop doing that to him because he gets so much undeserved flack for stuff. Let other people talk about that. And y'all, like, realize sometimes it ain't his fault.
It ain't my fault. Yeah, I agree with you. I think, at the end of the day, let somebody else make that point.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'm with you on that one. Like, look, Chad Baker, if you've never had a chance to actually talk to him, he's a really good kid. He's a really good kid.
And,
yeah,
I think that's what frustrates me so much when people throw words around like he's a thug or he's like he's selfish, and I was like, man, I don't think y'all ever actually had a conversation with Chad. You've never talked to him in real life.
And let me tell you something. Most of the people throwing the word thug around have never met a thug in real life.
That's a fact too.
Right? Like, you're always a thug. No, you've never met a thug. If you had, you wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
He is not a thug. Now look, I think that, I mean, this is kind of a different conversation, but so many young men, I think, just have issues regulating their emotions. And I think at times he just has issues regulating his emotions. And in a game that's as physical as basketball is,
that's as emotional as basketball is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like you get in the heat of the moment sometimes. Better men than Chad Baker-Mazara have succumbed to their emotions in those moments. What are we talking about here? Right? Some of the best basketball players or athletes in the world are notable jerks.
Right.
I don't even think Chad Baker is a jerk.
No, I was saying that word does not apply to Chad Baker at all.
Yeah, he's not even a jerk. He's just a talented basketball player that sometimes, when in the heat of the moment, his emotions get the best of him.
And here's the thing, and somebody said this in the comments. Would Chad be a guy that would annoy the crap out of me if he was not on Auburn? 100%. 100%, I'd be like, oh, God, I can't stand him. He gets on my nerves. Yes. I wouldn't go as far as some people do about Chad, though. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot for me sometimes.
Yeah. If he wasn't on my team, I'd be like, good God, that dude annoys me.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, and I think that's a normal fan thing to feel, but your own fans shouldn't be piling on you in that sense.
Right.
To your point, yeah, let other people make that point. I don't think Auburn fans need to make that point about Chad Baker-Mazara. He is a good person, and I'm before I say, let me preface this. I'm not comparing our experience to Chad's. I'm just saying, like, we do have some experience and people making judgments about you based on things that they see solely on a screen,
right,
without ever having met you.
Correct.
I definitely understand what that's like. So, if you're Chad Baker-Mazara, you turn off the TV, man. Just don't listen to it. It doesn't make sense. These people don't know you. They don't know you. They don't know you to make judgments about you. And you've just got to play your game. But you do have to understand, in life, perception is reality.
Right.
And so the perception as the refs are concerned is that you cannot regulate your emotions and you're prone to step out of line and do things. And they're going to see everything you do through that lens. And whether you like it or not, that's the reality that you played a part in creating for yourself.
Correct.
And for your team. So understanding that that's how you're going to be viewed, you have to know that and just make sure you don't put yourself in a position where it costs the team. That's it. I think that's what Dylan Cartwell's frustration was at the end of the tournament last year. After they got beat by Yale, he went into the post-game Ike, and he was just like, how does this help us?
Right.
And he was calling out Chad, rightfully so. So, don't put yourself in a situation to be called out this year, Chad. You just don't, man. It's harder. Winning championships is hard. It's doubly hard when you're doing things that actively against your own interests.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right, let's grab a couple of chats here before we get out of here. Lawrence says Auburn should be concerned with shot selection, free throw shooting late, and lazy passes. For sure, that can be symptomatic. Now, I mean, just note, I did throw out statistics. As far as turnover percentage, Auburn's number 4 in the country, 4th best at turnover percentage in the country. Like, it doesn't feel like it, but Auburn actually does not. And I think this is another thing where people have to start watching more games than just Auburn and critiquing roughly. It's like, there are teams in the country that are way worse at this than Auburn is. Auburn does it, but if you go and look at college basketball, there's a bunch of teams that have this problem in spades, and Auburn has this problem, but it's not as big a problem as you think it is compared to what other teams are doing around the country. Devin 21, we didn't have Janai last time we played Georgia. I think we win big. This is a fact. Janai did not play in that game.
That's right.
So
he did not play versus Georgia.
Yeah, at Georgia without Janai, they got the win. That's an interest. That's a good point to bring up there, Devin. DJ says, is there a world where we start to decrease minutes for our studs trying to regain health going into March?
Interesting.
I don't know.
Okay, so this is an interesting discussion about decreasing minutes and momentum, and what is most important. What does the player want, right? Because rest. I do think there is something. This is why every once in a while we see a run, like an unlikely run through the SEC tournament. Is that those teams that didn't have to play days 1 and 2 are coming off cold, and you're coming in hot on a heater,
right?
And you can give them a game because you had to play and they didn't. So what do you think is? I'm interested to know what fans think is better. I think coaches would prefer some rest for their players, but maybe not too much rest. So I don't know. I don't have a question to that. You're gonna. It's a lot of basketball. It's a long season. And if you're the number 1 overall seed going into the SEC tournament, I know they're going to want to win it, but I'm telling you from where I'm sitting, as someone who, as media and as a fan, I don't give a damn whether they win that SEC tournament or not. I care that they make a run in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. And if, and this is something that Coach Pearl would have to determine, if it is better for that team to get healthy, lose the first game. Yeah. Just go down there and lose, bro. If getting health is the more important thing for you, but if you know what, I'd rather my team continue playing and keep sharp on their focus than go out there and try to win them all. Whatever is going to help them stay focused and ready to go play in hopefully freaking Rupp Arena in round 1. That's what I want to have happen. All right. Anyway, any final thoughts before we get out of here, Mike?
Yeah, look, I mean, Auburn's task is clear, and I think this is a great place for them to be, where the mission is clear. Win in, you're in. Win out, you're the number 1 overall seed. The gap between them and number 2 right now, as far as all the bracketology is concerned, is very, very wide, Ike. They have accomplished enough at this point in the season where there's not even a conversation about how, the conversation is about how far is the gap between Auburn and everybody else as it pertains to that number 1 seed. That's what great work you've done through your regular season. So just make sure you close it strong. Very few teams are in this position come February, where they're firmly in control of their destiny as the NCAA is concerned, not only about making it, but where you play placement.
Right. And you're 100% in charge of whether or not you get that number 1 overall seed and be placed exactly where you want to be.
Right.
You don't want to put this in anybody else's hands. Listen, man, you don't drop 3 more games and you're going to have an argument to be at the number 1 overall seed.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and someone who made the trip to Spokane last year and is not trying to go back, ever to the state of Washington, it's going to matter that you're in Lexington or Raleigh for the first round so that your fans can travel and get to see a lot more Auburn basketball over the next, month or so.
Right.
Because, look, so Auburn fans showed up. They showed up to Spokane. A credit to them. There were not a lot of great flights on the way out there. As a matter of fact, the one flight that I did take, there were a ton of Auburn fans on my flight. Atlanta to Spokane direct was difficult. Like, there weren't a lot of them. So a lot of people flew into Seattle or Boise, and those are 4-6 hour drives to Spokane after that. So you have a chance to do something historic and do it close to home and right up the road in the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 at that. It's going to be hard for Auburn to have a better opportunity than what they're going to have if you're Bruce Pearl. If you're Bruce Pearl, your legacy is on the line this year. Hear me out. Your legacy is on the line this year. You got bounced in the first round by Yale last year.
Yeah.
And you've been living on the ghost of a Final Four run that was 6 years ago. You've got to get it done. He's advocated for new facilities and some things that, maybe he has not gotten. I think he should have gotten everything he's asked for, given where he took this program from. They handed him a turd.
Yeah.
But now you have to get this is your legacy, man. History remembers championships and champions. And if you can't get it done this year with this squad, win.
Right.
Because you're going to be hard pressed to have a more talented, more experienced, more senior laden team than the one you have right now. It is very difficult to do because it's hard to keep kids in college as long as you need them if they're that talented.
Right.
You've had to go to the D2 level to find, the Cheney Johnsons. You had to go to FIU to find Denver Jones. You went to Morehead State to find the potential player of the year in all of college basketball. And now you've got the talented freshman that you wish Aiden was last year, and Tahad Pettiford is stepping up and hitting big shots. You got an unselfish basketball team that will share the basketball. Nobody cares who's the 30-point man on any night. This team truly only cares about winning. If you're Bruce Pearl, this is your legacy, man. I don't know that we'll see another team like this while he's the coach of Auburn basketball. Anything short of a Final Four is a failure for this team. You don't make the Final Four, and I will say this, and if you get there, you better not get blown out.
Yeah.
You get there, it better be an epic loss. It might be one of the best games that we've ever seen in the Final Four if you lose
Right.
it. Right. And so, I think last year was Alabama's first Final Four in school history.
Yes.
Is that correct? Right.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get there. I can accept a loss in the Final Four. I can't accept a loss before that.
Team's too good. Not how they've played the regular season. I
not
think
on a number
point,
one overall.
It's gonna feel disappointing with anything less than that.
Yeah. And let me say this too, because there was an idiot in our comments a couple days ago just yapping about just absolutely nothing. Right? I don't care what happened against Yale last year. This team is different.
Right.
You didn't have Miles Kelly. You didn't have Tahad Pettiford. Cheney Johnson is clearly better. Denver is better. Chad is better. Janai is better. This team is different. So I don't care what happened last year. The core of this team it has changed, and they're better. So last year's results be damned. If Virginia can be the first number one overall seed to lose to a 16 and come back and win a national title the very next year, Auburn can make a run to the Final Four after getting bounced by Yale in the first round. That's all I'm saying. So
yeah, and I mean, to your point, that's why this year is so important, because of how you ended your season last year in such an epic, what felt like a collapse. You have atonement for you for Janai Broom, who led that team last year and didn't get it done. For Chad, he's got to feel a sense of atonement this year for how he exited that game and what everybody feels like cost Auburn that game with his behavior. You've got so many people who just need to atone and get that bad taste out. Dylan Cardwell is it for you, man. You're Mr. Auburn. You need to go out, bring it, like, let's hang another banner this year, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So I don't know. The sins of a generation can be forgiven with an Auburn Final Four run.
Yeah.
It is time. I think that the investment is there. The fans have showed up. They've done their part. They deserve this. They deserve this run, right? And if you're Bruce Pearl, you have to deliver it. Like, nothing will erase the accomplishments that he's had over the last few years. That's not what I'm saying. But, like, if you don't get it done, ultimately you're going to be remembered as a coach who got close but couldn't get it done.
Correct.
And I don't think that's what he doesn't want that. I know he doesn't want that. Auburn fans don't want that. And but if you can get them over the hump and you can join the pantheon of great teams to make a run to and win a national title and prove that Auburn is a place where you can win a national title in basketball, you can lay the foundation for something that will reverberate for decades to come. And that's
put you in a different conversation.
Yeah, that's what you want. That's what you want to leave if you're Bruce Pearl. And to this year could be the beginning of laying the foundation for that legacy. It's been a lot of really good coaches to come through programs in college football and done things close to what Bruce Pearl has done, right? But very few of them can claim that they made the run all the way to the title game and won it. And I think if you're Bruce, like, this is it. This is the year that you have to do it.
Yeah, like I said, I don't disagree with you. I don't know that you're going to get this collection of talent in this level of seniority and experience ever again in your coaching tenure. I don't know how many more years Coach Pearl wants to coach, but, like, for him to get this again, it's going to be tough. So strike while the iron is hot.
Get her done.
Yeah. All right, Mike, let's get out of here, man. Let's let the people have their evening back. Tell them ways they can support us as we continue to try to do the great War Report work out here.
First and foremost, I want to thank our title sponsor, The Rage Room. Visit them in Opelika at 1510 2nd Ave, or if you're in the Birmingham area, 2616 7th Ave South, Birmingham, Alabama. Also, sign up as a member. We appreciate our members for helping us grow our Green Name Gang. $5.99 a month will get you there. Check out our friends at Underdog Sports. New customers can deposit and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Just bet higher or lower on 2 different player props and hope and pray that you are one of the many that are winning on Underdog today. Great sponsors of the War Report. Use code RAPPORT when you sign up at Underdog Sports so they know the War Report sent you. Also, I want to thank our friends at Vintage 2298 Restaurant, no longer a butcher shop. But if you're in the Auburn Opelika area and you're looking for some fine dining, visit Vintage 2298. Great partners there. Our guy, Chef Randall Baldwin, cooking up something nice for the community. The Rogue Shop, visit the Rogue Shop at rogueshop.com and use code RAPPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in the life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. Again, code RAPPORT to get 15% off. And check us out on podcasts. Every single podcast network. The War Report is there bringing you guys lots of great audio-only content. The Auburn Express, Up-Tempo, College Loop, and Just a Sec pods. Whether you're on your way to work or at the gym or just walking the dog down the street, catch up on all your Auburn content in audio-only format with us. Wherever you listen to podcasts, whether it's Apple or Spotify, make sure that you hit subscribe, turn on those notification bells, and turn on automatic downloads. That helps us a ton, guys. We appreciate your support over there.
Yes, indeed. Before you get out of here, make sure you share the content with somebody, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and you can follow us on those social media platforms. We are out there on the Twitters or X, whatever you want to call it, Instagram, TW Report on the Tick of Talking. We'll be back at you guys with more great content later on. Auburn Express dropping tomorrow. We got Watch Party popping off. And pregame, I got a breakdown coming for you for that Georgia game coming up this weekend. Stay locked in with us until the next time. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
That